Okay. Call the meeting to order, recognize our teachers and Harold as our guests. Thank yous, Mr. Severson.
Just congratulations to the varsity girls volleyball team. They got third at the Lakota tournament last weekend. And then I have a email that I received from a gentleman. We had a counseling intern for a few days, but they were very grateful that she was able to do, especially with Julie and the sport. But the email says, "My name is Jim Nyland. I'm the father of Hannah Nyland, the young lady who began her internship with your school and who unfortunately was forced to leave very shortly after starting. I'm contacting you because I felt it is important to express to you the high level of respect and appreciation I have for your school and staff, and the gratitude I have for what you and your counseling staff, particularly Mrs. Kudrna, did to help my daughter. My daughter deals with issues relating to being on the autism spectrum. She is incredibly intelligent, but visual and auditory stimuli have a pronounced effect on her in a very negative way. I myself have worked as a counselor and I'm currently a school librarian, so I know the challenges she would be facing when she decided to pursue being a school counselor. But as a parent, my wife and I always supported her fully and strongly as possible as she tries to challenge herself and work through the things she struggles with. She has a history of successfully working through these challenges as long as they have supportive people around her. That is really the main reason we were so happy when she wanted to do an internship with Barnes County North. Based on what we have heard about the school, we thought this would be a great place for her to learn and grow, and Hannah really loved the school. However, the atmosphere, which she could not know for sure or plan for until she got there, simply overwhelmed her emotionally, and although she may not have shown it, she wound up to have a full-blown panic attack and had to withdraw. She has recovered and is fine, but she is very disappointed, primarily because we were also impressed with the school and the people there. I would like to make sure you knew how completely impressed we've been with your staff and especially Mrs. Kudrna. Hannah could not have had a better supervisor. Her professionalism and the caring she showed a young lady she barely knew fills me with such gratitude that it brings me close to tears. She is a credit to your school and community, and I cannot possibly thank her enough for the selfless help she gave to my daughter. Again, thank you very much. The caring support and selfless help you and your staff gave my daughter in that short time is something I'll never forget. Excuse me. And I'll always appreciate it. Your staff, your wonderful school, and your caring community very much. I just wanted to make sure you all knew that.
Very nice.
That's nice.
That's great, thanks.
Yep.
Agenda, any additions or changes on the agenda?
Not that I have.
Not you have? Yep.
Yeah, he's on
He's
there.
on there.
I didn't miss it. Where's he at?
C, new business.
Oh, it doesn't say Harold.
I'm in the fine print.
Yeah.
Did you want me to put his name on? If you
No.
know?
No, that would scare people.
If he's under new business, we don't wanna hear the same old business.
Motion to approve our agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Rob, you have a second?
I'll second.
Cindy? All in favor of approval of agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Approved. Consent agenda is next. Any questions there on minutes, bills, or financial reports?
I make a motion we approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Lee? Roll call, Lee?
Rob,
Yes.
Chad?
Yep.
Michelle?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Lori?
Yep.
Brent?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Lee?
Yes.
Brett?
Yes.
Okay, committee reports, nothing on presidents. We did the career and tech through Mr. Bolt. So we'll drop to activity director, Mr. Seaver.
I don't have anything, just, the volleyball. If you noticed last night, we were here quite late. Junior high went three sets. JV went 3 sets, varsity went 5, so we were here for the duration. Had we not won set 4, 25-8, we would have been here even longer. And we had to take the last one and lost 16-14 in the final set. So, but it was a fun match, and the girls I think they had a great time, and it's just cool to see how well they're getting along. And I mean, they're really young this year. We got one senior, and they've just come together so well. So.
And if you ever
Kudos
get
to
a
the
chance to come
coaches.
to a home game and watch our fans, it's pretty amazing how excited they get and loud.
Mrs. Bitts, technology report.
On the technology side of things, our family engineering nights are going to start in October, so we have all of those on the master calendar, and there'll be a notice sent out.
Mrs.
and
Bitts, should you be at the microphone?
And a sign up, I think you'll be able to pick me up. This is the first time you've said that in like a year.
You keep telling us we gotta be at the microphone, then you stay back there.
You wanna hear what I say? So that'll start in October, we'll let the sun themselves. Tomorrow is gonna be our first, we try to do like weekly or bi-weekly ed chats for the staff, so over at the lunchtime, we just come in here and we do a working lunch. And like tomorrow's topic is having their grades from Schoology sync into their Power School grade book. So I'll choose different topics throughout the year, and then they can choose to come or not, which most of them do. We just come in here, bring our lunch in here, and we might present just a little tips and tricks. Most of the time it's technology related, sometimes it's, I mean, last year we talked about technology issues in the classroom and kind of how to handle those discipline issues, so it can be kind of anything on the spectrum there. We held a tech meeting today and talked about a couple main topics, including the interactive panels. If you remember last spring, the InFocus got discontinued, so we're trying to find another solution, and I'd like to have that solution installed over the Christmas vacation, so that when teachers come back semester 2, they will have that there. So we're looking at a couple different solutions, and I have a couple people from the committee that are going to sit in on some demos, and we'll hook up with a couple different schools and be able to ask the teachers how they're implementing those and what's worked best, what hasn't worked best. And then I'm also going to a tech conference next month, so I'll bring back some ideas. So hopefully we'll meet again in November and have a recommendation and move forward with that. We have this young man in 5th grade that gives us some really good input on the technology committee. Mrs. Bussey was very impressed with him today. We won't mention any names. Ian Elston. Yes, he is just.
I like it
Not
when we-
shy.
His stuff is very valuable when we're talking about this and what's best. In that conversation, we also brought up, right now, our students in grades 9 through 12 are able to take their devices home. The technology committee discussed today that we would like to expand that down to 4th grade. So Ian has some very good input on that, so that's gonna be our push. I just need to talk to Mr. Severson about some logistics of things, and if that goes okay, then we'll be moving forward with that. We just feel that with some of the tools that we're using now compared to before, when we didn't allow them to go home, kids are getting much more online as far as classes. They're getting much more content digitally. You know, Mr. Samuelson uses digital books. We got a new science curriculum with online resources and digital resources in there. Our primary grades are using Seesaw. You know, so there's different things. Things are changing. We just feel like that would be an opportunity for students. They don't have to take it home, but if they have something that they need to get done, they're not going to be restricted from doing that just because they're not allowed to take it home.
Do you know how many of our students still don't have internet at home?
We talked about that because I did a survey a few years ago, and at that time it was only a couple. It was just a small number. We sure can do that again. I just think it's probably a small number. Then as far as other things, just working on some new integrations. We recently had that new science curriculum in McGraw-Hill, which will tie into our Schoology. So I'm working on getting that all integrated so that our kids, when they sign into Schoology, they don't have to sign into a separate McGraw-Hill account. They can just access all their science digital resources right within the Schoology app. And then there's some other things with our new MDM, and Apple Classroom now is available for computers, so teachers can monitor a little bit closer what kids are doing on devices with that, so those integrations are in process. Any questions?
So I think you covered it pretty well.
Thank you. K-6 principals report.
Lots going on in October, so I put together an elementary MTSS team. Mr. Wilson got it rolling with, I think it started 7th and 8th grade, and so this year taking over, I put together a team. We're going to be trained throughout the year and going to push it for fully implemented pre-K 6 next fall. I along with Mrs. Kuderna, started the 6th grade peer leaders program we're going to start. They had to apply, and Mr. Severson, Mrs. K, and I will be interviewing the next 2 days, and we're making the decision this Friday. So I am meeting with them every other week. We're going to be planning elementary activities, problem solve problems that may arise in the elementary. I saw today Ian's input was super valuable, so it'll be similar to that. Determine dress-up days for things coming up for the elementary. They'll plan quarterly celebrations, assist with the Kindness Club when needed, and then do a spring service project. So that's the plan, and it's just building. If you look at the applicants, some are introverted kids that will be awesome to see their leadership come out, and some are strong leaders who will learn how to rein it in when needed too, so it'll be good. Picture days on a Friday this year, so that doesn't accommodate any of our preschoolers. Ms. Mears is contacting parents to come in at 8 a.m. that day to take their child's pictures. And then we're also saying if they aren't able to make it in the morning, they're able to go to the front of the line, take their picture, and then head out. But we're gonna try to schedule that on a preschool day next year maybe. October 1st, I will be meeting with a small group of parents and some teachers to get the process of a PTO started. I am taking the new classroom teachers and Mrs. Miller to Northern Cass on Friday, October 4th. They have to get observation hours in. Northern Cass was simple because I knew exactly who they would be seeing and what they would be seeing. So Mrs. Scott, Mr. Schaefer, Mrs. Anderson, and Mrs. Bryn are attending the Fall Educators Conference. And then yesterday when I was at the Principal Advisory Committee, Jamestown is bringing Steve Dunn to train their K-3 teachers in a writing curriculum. When I interviewed the teachers this fall before coming in, that was one thing that they said they were lacking, was a writing curriculum. So they invited us to join for a huge discounted cost, and that includes the training of the materials, lunch, place to have it. So it kind of just rolled out and worked well. And elementary will be celebrating Red Ribbon Week the week of the 14th, so peer leaders will get a good jump in on planning activities for that. And then Mr. Wilson and I will be heading to the Fall Administrators Conference. I think that's right before our next meeting. So lots going on. Mr. Severson had to pull me back in today and say, don't go too fast, too quickly. And then Lori came in and was like, what did you think about this? What did you think about this? And then I saw her looking at me when Mr. Bope was talking, so. Any questions? Any-
Questions?
Just one, October 6th through 12th is Fire Prevention Week.
Yeah,
Traditionally, either Rogers Fire Department or the Wimbledon Fire Department,
Daisy
or Daisy, sorry, Daisy. Yeah. But they'll come out, bring the fire truck out. Well, at least we bring the fire truck out because our hall shouldn't be, anybody shouldn't be in there right now, But we bring out activities for the kids, coloring books, all that stuff, talk about fire safety. So, I don't know if you're planning on anything or anything like that, but just let you know that's available to you,
Who do I contact for it?
Rob or myself.
All that.
Rob sprays with the hose.
Daisy and,
Yeah.
What?
I had it
Over here.
It wasn't last year, because preschool was on like a Tuesday and
Yep.
opposite days.
oh, they did
Oh,
two different
sure.
ones.
So
Yeah.
two different ones?
That's right.
So I can split elementary up into 2 groups and determine a schedule?
Or have them both the days that preschool is on.
Well, yeah, I mean, however you wanna do it, whatever works for you guys. But just so we know, so we can get people out here.
Thank you for bringing that up. It's the students that-
Add it to your list.
It's even busier now.
Any other questions? Okay, thanks. Mr. Wilson, 712.
PE students went to Wesley Acres and went canoeing, and we had 6 students who fell in.
Oh, accidentally.
Did they fall in
Some
or
little
fall in?
Yeah. But I think I must have been the jinx, because it was the first year that I went. And then the one group that I left there for, nobody fell in. And Mrs. Albright wasn't there. I attributed that there was no fear of falling in because it was such a nice day. But had it been a little bit cold or windy, then they may have been a little more careful not to fall in. But I don't think it was intentional, because that water's not the
Clean.
nicest.
They don't think it that way.
The front area, the students like it, it's getting plenty of use. There's teachers who are using it for classroom activities, and then the high school kids are going out there and eating lunch out there. So I know we have 2 tables out there. In the future, it might be good to maybe get 1 more, because on a few days I've had to say no, because there've been enough kids out there, but, they seem to like it.
Will they want that in January too, or are you thinking?
Well, I said every nice day that you go out there, you gotta be out there for a bad day. What do you mean by that? January or February? Nuh-uh. Jostens was here, talking with the sophomores about class rings, and then the seniors for graduation preparation. Yesterday, while we attended the SEEK PAC meeting, our juniors and seniors attended the career fair in Valley City. Mrs. Doctor supervised them there, so they were able to go through a lot of booths and see a lot of different offerings that were there in the area. I'm looking into having our sophomores take the pre-ACT test. I'd like to do this the same day as our juniors take the actual ACT test. That way they can get an idea, and it's a shorter version. The ACT is almost close to 4 hours. The pre-one is 2 hours and 10 minutes, but it doesn't have the essay component. But it'll give us an idea of how our kids are potentially gonna score on that ACT test, and then we can plan accordingly what are the areas that we can try and work towards to increase our ACT scores for our students. And I know the ACT test is usually given in March, so it would be, we'll have that figured out by the time that comes, but I just think that's a good practice for them to be able to sit through that amount of time taking a test to get an idea of what the actual ACT test is gonna be like, so that they're not surprised by how long it seems to take on there, and have some questions and start utilizing some of the questions and tests that they have in our homerooms. So having ACT question of the day, that way they can break down the question, look for ways to be able to find the answer, break it down, and get used to those things ahead of time, so that they have all the more potential success while taking the ACT test. It's a very important test for them and for us, our school accountability. Homecoming starts September 30th. We'll be having the homecoming court voting tomorrow, and then voting for king or queen on September 26th. And then coronation will take place on Monday, September 30th. between the JV and varsity volleyball games. This is different than in years past. Moving everything up for the coronation or the voting aspects, it gives our king and queen an actual full week of being the king and queen rather than that one day. And then it's announced. So instead of the Thursday night volleyball game, it's gonna be the Monday night volleyball game where they get announced and coronated. We've been in talks with Valley City on coordinating all the activities that they're doing. Unfortunately, we won't be able to go to their parade and their pep assembly because we can't get everybody back in time to get on the buses. But we are gonna send all the football players that are part of that team to go out there, get announced, and go into the parade and whatnot. But we'll still have all the activities that we normally have during homecoming week here. You know, the pep rally, the big dodgeball tournament that is tradition. And this year we have a staff team. So unfortunately, the student body won't win it this year.
Make sure the insurance is paid up on it.
Yep, so any board members that wanna come and be a part of that staff team.
I think I'm busy that day.
Right, yeah, I guess.
We probably
appointment,
will be outnumbered, but, so it should be a lot of fun on there, and that's all I have.
Any questions, Mr. Wilson? None, thank you. Mr. Severson,
Yeah, I
Superintendent.
did have one for the AD. I did go to a meeting today. I was thinking but it was the fall administrators meeting, and that was for all ADs or superintendents to get all the updates on the NDHSA, so I attended that today in Valley City. I have a sick leave bank committee meeting on Friday with the staff. I'll give a little update on that under old business. And remember, Monday, the 23rd, we've got our strategic planning orientation and overview, 6 o'clock. We'll go here in the library, and if it gets too big, we'll go to the gym, but we'll plan on it here. And then our first official meeting then will be October 7th at 10 o'clock.
So after that first one, it goes back to the 10 to 1 o'clock
Yeah.
timeframe?
Yeah. Friday, as Mrs. Bussey indicated, there's school pictures. We will be having our group picture that day as well with all the staff members. And just to let you know that we've got, every Monday morning, Mr. Wilson, Mrs. Bussey, myself, Mrs. Bitson, and Bud get together to discuss the week and make sure we've got everything, building grounds, technology, all of our areas covered. So we do that every Monday morning. Leadership teams, we meet the first Wednesday of every month. So just so you're aware of that. Wednesday, Michelle, Cindy, Lori, and I are going to a rural school summit, and it starts at 9 o'clock now. So you guys either have to get a motel or leave earlier that day. It's at the Capitol building. And then Tuesday, the 2nd of October, we have a early release day, 1:30. So we'll have that. Homecoming football game is Friday the 4th. We play Wahpeton at Valley City. Again, the district planning meeting is the 7th, strategic planning. Then the October 9th, 10th, and 11th is the fall conference for the educators. And that's the one that Mrs. Bussey mentioned that we'll be going to that one. And then the next week, we don't have school on Thursday or Friday. We have the NECEL Fall Conference, so that's the 17th and 18th. And just a reminder that our board meeting is on the 15th next month. It's on a Tuesday night instead of a Wednesday night. That's on the agenda too, but just make sure you guys have that down in your calendars, because Wednesday's the night before. Well, actually, I think we have to be there if we're taking it for credit on Wednesday night. And then Thursday, Friday's the conference. Flu shot vaccine clinic is here on the 15th of October from 8:30 to 10.
Okay. Thank you. Any other committee reports we need to touch base on?
No, we have the budget and finance, we met on Monday, but that was just to go over some of those things. We can,
Some of
do
the
you want
stuff.
to talk about that now, or do we want to?
No, we can run that with budget.
Okay.
Yep. Full business, we're in the budget, so that's what we had the update from this afternoon, right, Amy? So y'all, we've got the new numbers here. Showing 236, 213, 48 deficit spent. And that will be doing a budget, a mill levy of 60 mills on the general fund, as opposing of 10 mills on the building fund. Any other discussion we need to go with there? I mean,
Nothing really. Just that the tax evaluation's the reason that the increase for everybody was, so it wasn't an increase on our part.
Was there any questions there? If not, we're looking to approve our budget. We've gone through it one other time in the budget I was meeting at, and
Yes.
we did again. So we've gone, looked at this and made some adjustments.
So I make a motion to approve the budget.
I hate the deficit spend, but I'll
So do I.
second it.
Any other discussion? If not, the roll call.
Rob,
Yes.
Chad,
Yep.
Michelle.
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Lori,
Yep.
Brett,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Brett.
Yes.
Okay, that was approved. Sick leave bank update.
So we've been meeting, we're in our third meeting now, we're gonna, keep discussing the policy. The one last time, we've got a couple of different policies, so we're gonna go through, try to get something together, then we'll start writing it, and then once we're hoping to get it back. I mean, obviously, we want it back in there before the end of the school year, so that we can get it back and get it amended into the negotiated agreement, is what the plan is, so. We've got a few different ones that have come from Carrington, I think Moorhead, Bemidji, maybe, I can't remember for sure all the schools we've got it from, but we'll get some ideas together and get that put together, so.
Okay.
It'll be ready before the end of the school year.
Then we got the restroom tile project discussion, which we had questions on that bill.
Yep,
from last
I
month.
got a hold of, is it Scott?
Yep.
Scott Waldy, and what he did, he went through and they sent Amy a new bill. They dropped $1,400 off the bill. $1,100. Okay, that's what, $1,100 off the bill.
What did they adjust?
Mhm.
They decreased the cost of that jolly edging, the top edge, they decreased that. They decreased the cost of the Ditraset, which was the tile adhesive. The membrane, they decreased that, and they decreased the silicone sealant.
So the,
So, go ahead.
go ahead, so the jolly rail or whatever the heck, they decreased it, or did they take it
They
totally out?
decreased it.
But
They didn't take it out.
They didn't take it out, they just
They decreased
deducted
it.
somehow.
Right.
That's the one we had the real problem with.
The original, the quote that they gave us that had everything that it should have had on it, one that was dated May 30th, the jolly edging had been $565.44. They brought it down to $492.48. The Ditraset went from $550 to $508.75. The membrane went from $17.12 to $12.40, and the silicone sealant went from $400 to $186.
And they didn't adjust anything on the labor side? Just
No.
all the
Labor
materials.
side, that was, yeah, they didn't, because
That subbed.
that was subbed out and, I mean,
The
that was
question
more
on
on
the-
us, yeah.
The jolly stuff is what we were told we weren't supposed to do.
Yeah.
And they did, so there would have been labor onto that, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Yeah, his thing
Because
was,
basically where we were at was, what we approved was $7,700.
Yep.
And the total bill was $12,008.
Yep.
When we got the bills. So they've adjusted $1,400 off. that.
1,100.
1100.
Yeah.
$1,100 off.
I have a problem paying for the part that we said we didn't want.
Right.
Right.
And I discussed it with him, he said that they never received that message. And he said it's pretty customary that they put it on because he was talking about the edging, if you go look in the other bathrooms, doesn't have it. And it's just I don't know how, but he said they do it basically to keep it a cleaner look. And it's easier to clean.
Did they give any itemized when they did the labor thing, or just labor $6,400?
Oh,
The guys that did the labor, I
from
don't know if
John? No, it was just,
the hours probably.
I've got it here someplace. Install all tile in 6 bathrooms, grout, remove old base, prime floors, cut off doors, trip charge, $6,095. That's all it says.
So it doesn't break it up from tile or jolly or
No.
anything. That's what I say, they didn't break it out. So, what you guys, so we basically last month when we had that question, we basically didn't pay it last month. Cause we had way more than what we were approved to spend.
Right.
That's where we're at. Cause what we had approved was 7,700 round numbers. And
77, 67, 37.
that's what we approved, and the bills came to the 60, basically round numbers 12.8, is what their bills were last month. They took off, I'm sure, the tax too, cause that was.
They did.
Okay. Well, I'm sure that, yeah, cause that was on the bill last time too, was tax. We shouldn't have to pay it either.
So what's the bill
Yeah,
now?
we're tax-free.
What is our number now?
Why would we do that?
No,
they took
that
it
was
off.
on there, they
They
took
took
it
it
off.
off.
Gotta be 11,000 something yet, doesn't it?
Right there.
No, it should be 10
Isn't that the new one?
Well,
with the tax.
the bill from Valley Flooring is now $55.94.59,
So 11,000.
and the
The other
installation is
69.
$6,095.
So we're at 11.
Still up, so it's still.
They can't take it off. But there's a lot of people in here, if they're in business, you can't give somebody a product they didn't ask for without paying for it.
And you also don't bid a project and then come back and
And add.
charge more after the bid. I mean, that's, we didn't, we just, that's not the way you do things.
Well, now it's all approval.
Right.
Right.
I know it's tough.
If they'd have come down halfways, I would have thought that was better, but they didn't come even half.
Well, it sounds like Valley Flooring's trying to work with us. The other one, they can't do anything
Well, I
about.
don't think so, cause they subbed that out, and that was just, and whether it was a misunderstanding on our part or theirs, but they told us they were gonna do it for the same as they did
Cause
the
you
other
had in on
project,
that,
and he
but
said it's
that
a
one
rate.
was guessing at 4,000 something.
Yeah,
for that.
4,300.
And now
And
we're
he
at
said
6.
that there was more square footage, and that's why there was more,
You guys
labor-
remember
labor
the first
cost.
building and grounds? You and Rob, I think, were at that.
Mm-hmm.
You were looking at that 4,000.
Yep.
Yep.
4,300.
Well, if they measured it and they ordered the material, how the hell could they
They
know
should
that
know
there's
this-
more square feet than,
They should know the square.
Well, see, I don't know if they ever measured it.
Well, they had the
They had
tile.
to, 'cause
They
they
had
had
the
to
Bud,
tile.
I think, sent it to them.
Bud sent the
Yeah, but they had the
measurements.
right amount of tile, so they know the square footage, you know, they had the material for it.
Yeah, and see, that never, I mean, they never did give us anything, I mean, they never did give us a quote at all on installation. We went on what our previous one was. And like you said, that was the same rate, it was just more. So like I said.
But we never got a quote on
And that
the
can be
installation.
on,
Well,
that
the
can be
quote
on
on the
Bud
ins-
and I, cause we never did get a quote
The
on the.
quote on the installation was what they said they'd do it for what they did
Yeah,
last time,
and they said they
but
meant
it
the
got to be
rate.
more.
They said
had
they
to
meant
end
they
up
would do it
doing
for the
more.
same
That's-
rate, but it just took longer because
Yeah.
of the square footage.
oh heck, I'd send them a check for the original bid.
Well,
You guys just thought, that's why we brought her back.
I feel like there's just so much miscommunication somewhere.
I think.
I think
we
that's
talked
the
about that a
issue.
little too. I think some of it.
Like, I
is-
feel like it
I think
wasn't,
we're partially a little bit
Yes.
Yep.
at fault too. It isn't like it's
Yeah.
all there. I mean,
And
yeah,
Butter, we should have done some more
definitely,
communicating.
you're right, and that's the thing, it all started with somebody, the whole original bid started with somebody that left.
right.
Somebody else picked it up, we didn't
Clarify,
communicate between them, we
communicate.
didn't sign anything.
Yep,
I mean, so we really didn't, I mean, when you really look back to it, cause I was gonna pull out the bid to see which one I signed, and there was never anything signed. It went,
'Cause when we talked about this, when
Yep.
we approved it, our question was, we had such a wide range of bids.
mhm,
And we said, make sure we're bidding apples to apples, do some checking, and I don't know if
Right.
that ever really happened, it
Right.
just got done, that, okay, we're gonna go with you
Yeah,
guys.
and see, then they sent back they said that second bid they sent us, but.
After date was after we've approved the
Yep.
first one. Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
had no idea what,
Right.
when they did that one, because they put 5:30 on it, but we don't,
And we approved the other at 5:15, so that was after
Yep.
yeah.
the date.
So I'd like to make a motion to pay them everything but minus the cost of their Jolly Rail.
Which was 500 and something.
Okay.
Well,
But are you-
well, then they've already taken 14.
They're taking
Yeah,
1100.
they're
1100.
1,100
Wait,
off.
can I take, well,
I'm
forget
stuck in your
that.
14.
Yeah, I thought it was 14, but it's 11.
11.
Yeah, they
I
took
need some
1100
math
off.
intervention.
Well, I feel we have to pay it.
I
It just,
agree.
I mean, it's a lesson learned. I mean, we
Yeah.
gotta be a
Exactly,
little
that's what I
more,
told him too.
Diligent in
I said-
our
yeah, I mean,
And
we're gonna have
quotes
to,
and,
He said he doesn't wanna ruin any relationships, you know, he said he tried to do what he could. He said he would be, you know, if it really becomes an issue, he would come back out and visit with us again, but I told him, I said, you're going on 1100, at least you made an attempt to,
Yep.
you know, do something, so I said, we appreciate that, instead of just saying, no, pay it.
Because they have
But
changed,
so
because
they-
the first discussion we had with them was they weren't doing anything, correct?
This is the first time I've ever talked to him.
Yeah, but I mean, from when you and Bud talked to them, they weren't doing anything. Till I said the other night for you to give them a call.
I mean, I feel we gotta pay. It's just, it seems like a lot of the bids and stuff we get for the school, it's like they leave stuff out. Just thinking, well, there's a school, they'll pay, you know, I think it's just a lesson learned that we need to.
Exactly, we gotta make sure,
Be on
and
top of
that's
it.
the other thing too, like I said, when I went back to look,
Yep,
I didn't sign any of these either.
right.
You know, so, I mean, if it comes down to that, and they say, what did you, I mean, we could say we approved that one, and, you know, but we never signed anything, so that was on my fault, that I should have signed something for there, but, you know, we just didn't communicate real well after their first person left, we didn't communicate with the two that actually did the.
I think
And
we
and
have,
Lori had asked about the Jolly Rail, why we had said no. And we said no because the other bathroom never had it, right, Rob? That's why how we kinda decided
Right.
not to, because the other
his-
bathroom.
Right.
What
So
he,
we're-
what he told me was that they didn't have the Jolly Rail back then, I don't know if that's the truth or not.
Yeah, cause our first meeting, that was something new,
Yeah,
that they were, you know, but it was kinda expensive, so we
Yeah.
thought,
Yeah,
well,
he
the other
said-
bathrooms didn't have it, so.
he said it's so much easier to clean and it looks
Yep.
better, and he said, you know, he said back, cause I said, then why did you not put it on the first one? He said they didn't Jolly just came out, I don't know how long ago, I wouldn't
Right.
know, but he said that it wasn't available during that first installation.
Okay, I'm gonna try this again. I wanna make a motion that we pay the amended bill that they sent us.
I'll second it.
any other discussion?
What was her motion?
Motion is to pay it minus the 1100 and whatever
Oh.
dollars
The
Amy
amended
said was
bill.
on.
So what you guys agreed on, or,
no,
Yeah,
the-
what
or not what we agreed on, but what they said they would
What I
take
talked
off.
to him today about, yeah,
Okay.
and he sent the new bill to Amy.
and what about the labor?
The labor happened.
If it was subletted out,
What?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not
Nothing they
that
can do
company's
about it, yeah.
fault.
So do you want that part of the motion, or?
How would you like me to
So how
word
do you,
that?
what,
Yeah.
what is the bill,
Yeah, pay the whole
amended bill to Valley Flooring?
Valley Flooring is $55.94.59.
So that's what your motion is, to
Yep.
pay that, and
And-
the installation
and the
is
installation.
$6,095.
And the installation
And
of
the-
junk flooring or whatever it was.
I second that motion.
Oh, I can't do that, actually, he's a relative, so let me,
Well, then Brent can make
I'll
the
make the
motion, Rob can second it,
I'll make the motion, pay the full bill.
and then Rob can say.
I'll
Rob can
second it.
Second it.
So motion is made to pay the amended bill and labor. Roll call.
Rob,
Yes.
Chad,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Lori,
abstain.
Brent,
Yes?
Mike,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Brett.
grudgingly.
So I think we all learned something. Next time when we have these,
Exactly.
somebody's gotta double check a little what was bid to what we're actually getting a bill for.
And we have a signed.
And signed.
Yes.
Signed copy when it's accepted.
Yep. Because that would have been something too, if we'd have signed it and sent it to him, he would have had that and said, oh, wait a minute,
Yeah.
this isn't what we approved.
Right.
You know, this isn't what we actually bid, it would have came back to us and said,
We gotta
This
fine
is what
tune
we
our
have.
procedure a little
yeah,
bit.
exactly, tighten it up.
Okay.
Yep,
Anything else under old business?
nope,
New business, we got school board convention October 24th and 25th.
Need to know who's going.
Do we don't
Can't
need
make
to
it
do
this year.
delegates this, or can we do that?
Yes.
We do it this,
You can make it last year.
Yes, I
Because
did.
when I register, I have to
list them.
list who the delegates are.
Okay.
And just, I'll list everybody else as an alternate, so
Yeah,
that
it makes it
somebody
easy.
else can't go, at least you're on the list and then you can vote.
So we need for delegates.
Why are you looking at me?
Who's
I'm just
thinking
looking
of going?
up.
I guess start, who's thinking
That's
of
it, better
going?
find out who's even going first.
I can go.
I'm on one of the state committees, so I will be going.
I can go.
My kids are in school.
I'm
No, we'll be doing
thinking that I
soybean
can go.
harvest at that point, I'm guessing.
Oh, yeah, harvest is gonna be late, isn't it?
It is gonna be soybean harvest.
You can stay.
So you got four?
I might
How
have
many
to have another
delegates do you want?
surgery before then.
Two delegates?
Two.
If
So
it
far I've
makes you
got-
feel better, we won gift certificates last time for
Yeah, we
being
did.
Dove.
We stayed for the meeting and the voting, we stayed for the whole thing. We won. Didn't we, Cindy?
Yeah, I did, and then they called your name, and we're like, what the heck? Target gift
So then
card.
you're the delegates again?
No, it's been 2 years in a row. I'd like to head out a little early, maybe this year.
They failed to mention they're like the only two that stay.
Right.
We wondered why we were still there.
No one else was
Cindy had the hometown advantage.
So what, we got 4 possible going?
Yep.
Chad? Okay, so we need to motion for 2 delegates. The
These
rest will
two.
be listed.
Rob's not going.
I didn't
Oh,
raise
you
my
say
hand.
you're-
That's the, like, the
Chad
worst
and
time of
Michelle
the year
this
to have
time.
it.
If Mike and Cindy did it last time, Chad and Michelle should have to do it this time.
Are you even going? How dare you?
Is that a motion?
Sure.
Okay, we got a motion for Chad and Michelle. Is there a second? Those delegates.
It's always fun to be a delegate.
Oh, yeah. No, it's
Rob will
not.
second it.
Second, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Brett did the-
Brett did.
Can I say
Did you?
no in
Oh,
the
it said
vote?
Rob would.
Oh.
Oh, Rob would, okay.
Yeah.
Yep, he's got a second.
If you and Cindy travel together, she'll predict.
Roll call for Chad and Michelle as our delegates.
I'm gonna say
Yes.
no.
Rob. Right?
No,
I'm looking at him.
she started, she's changing the order this time.
Oh, yeah,
She's supposed to do that every time.
Yes.
Was that a yes?
I can say yes. I don't care.
Rob,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Lori.
Yep.
Brent,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Brett.
Yes,
She can at least do Brett.
Ah,
What did you have to do?
and it's unanimous.
Small joys in life.
No, you have to
School
vote.
compliance
Okay.
report approval.
We just need to prove that we're in
Small things
compliance.
make this one.
Mrs. Bussey and Mr. Wilson have to fill out a form and sign it saying that all their teachers are certified and all that, and then that comes to me, and then I fill out the portion on the superintendent end that we're all in compliance. You guys approve that report, and I can submit it tomorrow.
Perfect.
Looking for the motion to approve the compliance report.
I'll make that motion.
Chad
I'll second.
and Michelle. Any other discussion there? Not roll call.
Rob,
Yes.
Chad,
Yep.
Michelle,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Lori,
Yeah.
Brent,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Brett.
Yes,
Approved.
providing it's all correct.
Mr. Rotunda, you're up.
There's a chair right
Remember,
chair
you
right
have
here in the middle.
7 minutes.
If I saw it.
7 minutes, maybe
Less
give me
time.
one.
You have 7 minutes
Usually
less
a situation
time.
back in the old days, I'd have Mrs. Bitz if she's got enough tape in there because
Yeah.
we're going for a while here. Unfortunately, the digital world now, I can't say that anymore.
Bits rule.
But actually, see, you threw me off because everybody's 5 minutes. So I can't talk until you go, you got 5 minutes. I'm like, all right, thank you. So short of that, I have.
Okay, so you got a couple minutes for you.
I'm in that too.
Come on, the east side.
What do I wanna say? When you look at your financial house right now, and again, it's always been one of those situations where you control your own destiny. And you always do, and you always will. But that destiny also includes trying to make sure that things are paid for. And interestingly enough, and again, I'm a budgetaholic, so I have to confess that. If you are starting to approve deficit budgets, and you're gonna continue to approve deficit budgets, you have capitulated your financial control to somebody else. So as you look at it in a once in a while thing, it's not a bad thing. You shouldn't always make money, and when people come and talk, you know, the two that happen to show up for the meeting could raise a legitimate question. It was interesting, I actually was listening on the radio to a different, deal, like a guy was talking from Dickens, I think he went on. He said, was there a school board meeting, and they blew him off, how he interpreted it. But his answer to them was, he asked them as a question to the board, when's the last time you cut taxes? And they said, we'll have to get back to you on that. But I mean, the fact of the matter is, always raising taxes, in and of itself, is hard to defend all, the constant doing. But by the same token is, if you are going to do both, spend more, you need to raise. Now ironically, you might actually get a break, because Amy's telling me had new kids come in. They are refiguring the weighted units, so you potentially could actually get more state money in the next couple of years if you actually have kids. So you are actually, could in theory be back on the phone.
Could be back on.
Could be back on, but I've looked at it, and right now I don't have great faith, but I've done it for different schools, and in theory, they do have additional weighted units. If you grow, it goes to the new base. So potentially you got that out there, which would be kinda nice, but if you don't, technically, if you don't get the kids, you're on the maintenance plan. The maintenance plan also means state cuts, because they're increasing property taxes every year, valuations, therefore 60 mills brings in more, they pay you less. And that will happen forever, so from perspective, if you stay at 60 mills, you will lose money. Or at least at best break even, which means no raises, no toys.
Lose
no
money
equipment.
if the valuations.
Well, because the state right now is swapping, is they giving you a 1-year break of getting a little bit of the crumbs, and then it's gone. So you are guaranteed a fixed amount if you levy 60 mills. Or difference is gonna be more property tax, less state aid, more property tax, less state aid, more property tax, less state aid. But the number's always gonna be the same. The budgeting, you mean, Mike does it pretty easy, they just put the number in, they go, infinity. Ooh,
Exactly.
So, if you stay at 60 mils, you will eventually reach that bad spot, if you wanna do that. Now, when you looked at, the net effect this year is you technically cut taxes in the general fund. Right? So by rights, when you start looking at it, you kept the same mill levy, but you moved it. In all reality is, in a district like this, that is a somewhat irrelevant move. Other districts be very relevant. The building fund at any time can make a lease payment on the bond. So by having it here or here, and having $1 million being owed all the time, is a lateral move. So from doing that, you created a different situation. So again, part of it comes back down to when you look at where you're at, the building comes into play. Because you have not built that huge financial wall that says these two don't talk to each other. That's what you did at this meeting, and by having that building authority lease. So by all rights is, every time you talk to anybody else in the other district, they will talk about the ramifications of having money in a dead fund. It's in the building fund, we can't do anything with it. You go, bad break for you. So by rights, whenever you talk about the fund balance and the reserves are carrying over, that becomes part of the discussion every time. So from that perspective, you know, when you approved a 236, and again, I want to see the minutes to say begrudgingly, because Brett said this, I don't know, he didn't say nothing, he said begrudgingly. So, he should do like an asterisk or something like that. But by rights, that's the stuff where, if the building fund next year is going to have a surplus of $250,000, you're gonna break your bank. Because you move the mills over and the building fund right now isn't spending much. If all of a sudden you get this huge building projects, that's gonna take and create that whole different environment now because it's always out there. And you can always say, I got this safety valve called the building. And if all of a sudden you take it and you just spend it all with some new stuff that you have to do, then all of a sudden you're gonna go, hey, Mr. Stephen, make that deal, do it, and you're going, you guys already did it. I don't have it anymore. You took that rabbit and you said, let's go with it. And this is the part where, when you start talking about the budget, technically you need to have all three funds truly budget. And so, I don't know if finance did that, but you really should. Because it is critical to part of the process. Because you've made it part of the general fund in all this discussion, so. And either at the next finance meeting or even to some degree, you should have the discussion to say, all right, how's this building fund looking? Because you made money last year in the building. And if you move, and with that, you're moving another 3 mills over, so the building fund should make even more money. So at the end of the year, at 800,000, technically, by all rights, it could have $1 million in next year. Now, is that $1 million? What that equals one lease payment. So by all rights is if you said, okay, we're gonna use this rabbit one time only, we're gonna pay it out of the building fund. And you can do that, and the building fund's gone, now you're back to square zero, and you have to start to decide what it is. But that is part of your discussion, so when you do that long-term strategic planning, everything you have as this board is you have so many financial weapons that anytime you wanna use them, poof, they're there for you. So that's a part about you do control your own destiny. And in those discussions, technically, again, if you were going, and again, last negotiations and looking at different stuff, there is potentially an erosion of revenue that's gonna, because there's a huge cushion now. Can I go, wow, that's not too bad. And as that erosion gets built in, then all of a sudden, that's when you start looking at it and going, I lost control. All I can see now is these big brackets, and your begrudgingly becomes a double begrudgingly, then a quadruple begrudgingly, and all of a sudden you go, man, I gotta find a new word, because this is so bad.
Like 2.5, I dropped that number.
I mean, but this is where, in that perspective, and, you still have that whole lease, throws all these different things into a different state of discussion, but you have to make sure everybody believes what you're doing. Because this is where, whenever you have these, and I would really compare it to that bathroom bill you just had. If you'd have asked everybody at that table what you agreed to, and write it down, not talk about it, I bet if you looked at every one of them, they'd not be the same. And that's the things where, and this is when I see it, the deficit spending is only concerned to me when everybody fixes it a different way. Or spends it a different way, figure now we're gonna be okay, because then all of a sudden I'm going, it won't be bad, when you get double the size of your board, you get double the spending. I wanna use it for this, I wanna use it for that. And you got these technology people wanna spend all this. You never find a project, and any bill's not relevant to this system.
At
But I
least,
mean,
I'm listening to you.
at least you stuck out more than I did.
But that's a start where when you start looking at those things, and if you're going to just spend more in a couple of years, then I think you need to say, okay, when's this gonna end? And how are we gonna end it? And if the other things come into play, so you're gonna have to decide virtually, are you gonna be a revenue or an expenditure-driven board? And if you're gonna be a revenue-driven board, then eventually you're not gonna be able to afford all the things you can afford. If you're saying is, this school has a policy, our mission statement says we're gonna do these things, and they're not cheap. And you're saying, well, then you better, then in September, you better be willing to have some people sitting over there going, because that's gonna be a discussion they're gonna have. You know, it's interesting, in Maple Valley, because they got a building authority, but they don't have, you know, they got a different deal because it's only $4 million and how they look at it. And one of the things I talk about with them is, well, they can stay, if they wanna, if they believe, and this is something that would be tougher for you because it's a bigger amount, but if they believe that the building bond should be paid off as soon as possible to eliminate any risk of that coming into biting them 5 years down the road because they got this payment coming through that just eats them alive. They should be as aggressive as possible now to take those taxes. And you can talk about the same thing in your discussions is, should we have the ability, or should we always look at trying to get this bond paid off as soon as possible so we have less risk and burden in the future? But that's one of the things that you could talk about.
I don't believe we have the ability, right, correct? I don't
We
think that
have
they
it.
allowed us.
We have a point where we can refinance,
Yeah. And then when you refinance it, all of a sudden you could set it
but
up.
that has to go to a vote, right? We can't just refinance.
No, you could technically, you could pay it off a little bit early if you wanted to. There's usually call dates on that.
Is there?
Yeah. But I mean, right now, it's a huge amount and it's not, you know,
Yeah.
practical. But by the same token is, if you put that as one of your financial options, to say, okay, why do I wanna have this money? And why am I raising taxes? Because you could very easily go to each year and make the case that you're fine. And you would be fine. Every year of that year, in that year, you're fine. But if all of a sudden you're starting to trail into the systems, and you start to look at stuff, you're going, okay, if the state, because again, that transition minimum right now is over $1 million. And if they start coming back and saying, that, we gotta cap that, or we gotta get rid of it, and we'll give them 5 years to figure it out, but we're gonna get out of the transition minimum game, because that doesn't make sense to me. And at one time, Governor Burgum, in a radio interview, he's talking more about funding the new students, because he's in Fargo, so he's talking about Fargo and West Fargo, Bismarck. And he said, we can fund both new growth and phantom students. And the phantom students out there, right now, they're putting on the table. And because they've been paying for them a lot. And, you know, the worst case I got for that one, Zealand went from 55 kids to 23 kids. And they're getting paid for 55 kids. And if Zealand wants to be fiscally conservative, they gotta ride that horse for a long time. But I mean, that's the part where then the state goes, that's not okay. Of course, around here, it was always Kensel. Sort of when we talk about school issue didn't work, so. But I mean, but this is the parts where we start looking at it, so. As you look, so in the financial things, when you see the actual report, you can say, does this number good, this number bad, this number good, this number bad? Part of it's gonna come down to also, and again, you know, I know that in this year's budget, you talk about curriculum, and so begrudgingly, I'll say you've got technology issues that you're gonna have to always fund. And you're gonna have curriculum, and you're gonna have capital, you're gonna have all this stuff, and the question you have is, every year on those items, you can balance your budget real easy. Next year, that's next year. And you go, but the problem is there gonna be money next year? And that's the stuff where now eventually you're gonna have to start looking at, trying to see how comfortable you are with it, you see. So, when I talk about this year, I still say, big thumbs up.
Never comfortable about the future, you don't know what's happening.
That's right. And, you know, and that's why when you talk about that reserve balance, and again, that number becomes.
How much can you carry in?
Had you told me the president?
I've only met you for 5 years, and it's doom and gloom till you're almost done talking. And then you're like, yeah.
How much can we carry in that building fund?
We can carry anything, unlimited in building.
No, the issue you run into with the building fund is the state has interpretations that are aggressive on their side, that kills that thing off. So when people put money in the building fund, if they're not in your situation, it's actually almost a death sentence. Because you go, we got money, right? Yep. Can we spend it? No. No. Because remember, we had to move on to the general fund, we had to put it in the building fund, and until we do a big project, we can't. So, the building fund for school districts is the most restrictive tax in the state of North Dakota. If you take it
For what you can use it.
for what you can use it. So that's why when
We
you see.
could throw it at a bond payment.
We can.
Building authority, you can only use lease payments from the building. That's what I'm saying, so you guys, that's why you go get a chuckle, everybody else goes, bet you wish you had a building authority lease bond, no.
Yeah, we run around saying that.
That's every chance you get, right?
Yeah, just keep your head down.
That's right. See, that's what that's really where you need to be at, because, you know, your numbers just irritate me. Again, because it's like I started out with, and I started out good. I said, you control everything. I did say that, remember that?
30 seconds of it.
You told us that was our responsibility.
That's right, then I went,
Yep.
yeah, I
Fast.
went down, then it went downhill fast. I did give you that first glimmer of hope before I shot you. So, I've counted the audit report itself, it's the second to last page, 27. And again, on paper, the general fund did not make money, part of that was also year-end expense stuff. That's the other problem you have, or not problem, but the other thing you always have to make sure you're comfortable with is, when you keep spending in advance, you can become complacent and very comfortable going, hey, we're good forever because we can always spend this stuff. I've had a couple of schools where it flipped very fast, where all of a sudden their numbers didn't work out well and they were no longer worried about spending any money in advance. It's like, what's our June extra bill list? Nothing. Page 27. So the general fund lost $82,000. Food service, again, not paying salaries, broke even. Building fund, like I said, and you're giving it more money this year, made $240,000. So in total, that's how I look at it, 165, 2298, now you're $2.4 million. And again, in all these contexts, it becomes, what kind of things do you have to account for? And if you look up on top, on the revenue side, and I show the 4-year history, you'll see taxes, and they had a bigger jump in 18, last year they virtually stayed. And again, just the 63, 7, 60, 0, 10, same thing this year. So that should go up, but unfortunately the state number's going down, and part of the increase you're gonna have is gonna be offset there. So you are not going to have a big net increase in revenues by what you've chosen to do. As a matter of fact, it might probably go down a little bit. Expense-wise, instructional costs had slight increase. Administration had a slight decrease, and again, part of it was how some expenses were done, ran through the school board as miscellaneous expenses. Transportation was extremely close. Plant costs, and again, technically, if you're gonna pay for all your repairs and maintenance out of there, that's gonna be a consistent number. If you're going to say, is I want the building fund for special stuff, and I'm gonna have the plant pay for stuff, then all of a sudden that number's gonna go. But by rights is, you have a pretty steady pattern for it. Special ed, technically, one of the things you look at, and again, 65,000 looks great, but remember you send all your foundation aid money right to the unit. And all that money from foundation aid that goes there, I've seen different places, and I can always tell whenever a school feels they could do better, they say, let's take our money and pay an assessment, because I'm sure the assessments we pay will be less than what the state says we owe. That's a very short-term game, because eventually you're gonna lose them, and special ed costs that's a scary number, where right now the unit's in good shape, and things are going well, if they flip. And all of a sudden, their whole burden falls back on the schools. Special ed has no responsibility for any deficits, so that's how it is. So, as that goes along, part of the thing when you talk about special ed, we'll be going through those discussions. Extracurricular, again, interesting number, but you know, that's part where anytime you talk about extracurricular, the question comes is that where the 60 mil should be spent, or should you try to cover more costs? That's a philosophical thing, just like hot lunch, whenever we're talking about that, is should hot lunch, you know, you right now, $109,000 is the general fund's paying. Now, technically said, if other schools want to approach that, should they pay it more? And the larger schools, obviously, like Central Cass, Northern Cass, they break even on their hot lunch. They literally break even. So that 109 would moved over, that cost, and the revenue would have been enough to cover. So they do not use general fund money for their hot lunch. Other schools use a lot. And it becomes a philosophy. So I mean, like you said, if you're looking at it and had to want to make a change, said, okay, at 236, I don't think we should have that. What's our choices? That'd be a choice. Move those salaries over and let's jack up that hot lunch prices. I mean, that, now people will go, you're not serious, no, you're not, it ain't gonna. But, that is a situation you have agreed to. Now, you can also cap that philosophically and say, we're not gonna spend more than this or that amount, and pay more.
Is that 109 in food services at salaries? Is that what
Salaries.
you, okay.
That's correct, it's not like, it's a padded number, which would
Right.
move to administration or whatever. So when you start looking at that, from a perspective, your expense side, you've drilled in fairly close. And in that manner is saying, okay, are we going to be able to manage that side? It'd be pretty difficult. And you know, every time, the logical thing is, and I've always heard people say, we're gonna cut, we're gonna tighten that belt, and we're gonna make it more. And on a very, very short-term basis, you absolutely can. A lot of times, you know, it's interesting, the Fairmont School, 2 years ago, negotiated a 0% increase. Zero. 2 years. Because the teachers, they're top-heavy, school district's financially tight, and they realized that they better, if they wanted the school to be around, they would have to take a look at it. Last negotiation came, that all got moved. Big increases to make up. So, all that was a timing difference. And I would say the same thing, as anytime I see a timing difference, if it's not buying a bus, if it's not buying or not hiring teachers, or if we're gonna negotiate low, but we know that eventually they're gonna come back and say, everybody else is 3,000 higher than the base, you got it. And all of a sudden, well, then all you did was you saved 2 years. And actually, it could be even worse than that, because if they're, I gotta tell you, there's seen negotiations where you build in a number in the bottom, that ripple effect, it kills you. And if all of a sudden you jump too fast to get back to make it up, you can be in a bad spot. So from those perspectives, you know, you can try to manage those costs, but that's a huge budget. That's part of it when you start looking at where you're at. So, but ultimately, anytime you wanna drop that property tax card, boom, you're going. And yeah, because you can, a lot of other places are maxed out and they're hoping for the best. You are not even close to that. So.
Even if you ask the people around.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the single sheet I handed out, I know exactly where it's at, it's sitting in my office. So Mike gets advantage because I draw, the one thing when I look at that, I'm gonna drop it off so you can look at it for the next time. You actually did have a drop in your gap. And tax money went down a little bit, state went down, so your revenues dropped about 350 grand, your expenses went up. So you had a $2.5 million turn into the, after salaries are paid, it's now down to $2 million. That's the part where, in the deficits, if it's in that side, that's not a go-away cost. That number there becomes pivotal, because if you start losing that first battle, then you're gonna start playing timing games, if you don't want to invest this money. Because then you say, well, let's not buy a bus, or let's wait for this, let's do that. And you're saying, but eventually we're gonna buy a bus, right? Well, yeah, but not this year. But we're really not saving, are we? So that's the part where, that is probably the first time I've looked at it where I've seen that you are in a position where you have to make somewhat of a decision to say, are we comfortable where we're at? And I think, after the last negotiations, you're gonna feel pressure forever, and it's gonna be very tough not to have that number get maintained. And the only way the number gets maintained is, and the 5 numbers is variable, the biggest variable is property taxes. That's the number you control the most. If you said we are overstaffed and we can save a bunch of money, that's a difference. So from that perspective, if you look at the separate sheets, how many, I got like 5 minutes left or like 2 minutes? Have you kept track? Am I
Yeah,
at
you're
4?
over by 8.
Am I over by 8?
Oh, 9.
You haven't seen nothing, yet.
Talk about deficit spending.
I've seen she can go a long time.
My record is 3.5 hours. I'll tell you what.
All
But I-
doom,
but I-
all
but I-
doom and gloom?
No, not all doom and gloom. Actually, one of them was doom and gloom because they were in deep trouble and they said, we need to talk. I said, yeah, you need to talk. That was not one of those, we didn't leave with a bunch of warm fuzzies. Tried to find something. All right, this is a comparison, 2018. And again, first page talks about what the legislature beat up on, and again, $29 million in valuation. Excellent. Unfortunately, 114,000 per student. Tracking that 6 digits gets people's attention. 256 was the census, 66 was the total, was the general fund levy, including miscellaneous, 73. And again, when you compare yourself to a lot of other schools, you are not, and I can say that because I don't have to approve the levy. That's not as high as most of the schools in the state. But the question comes is, are you comfortable with that number? Now you dropped it to 7. The last couple of years. And it's 2 pages worth of schools, so the second page is other different schools. Page 3, the actual levy, $1,942,922. This is the part where when you look at how much you're able to raise with your mills. This is going to put you in a great spot every time you talk. And you're spending 38% of your budget on taxes. But one of the things I did, because of the $1 million you pay for the bond. If I take the $1 million off, and this is straight from school finance facts, so there's other ones, I'm gonna tweak a couple other ones you're talking about, but, so in that perspective, if you take the $1 million of expense off, okay, the bonds are paid off, you actually pay 48% of your expenses with property tax.
Minus the bond.
Right,
Take that out,
yeah.
okay.
So you're 38% on paper, so whenever a legislator looked at you, go, yeah, you keep thinking that way, that way you can, but in all reality, you pay 48%. And again, there are some schools out there that won't pay a lot, and there's some that pay very little. You know? And part of it's how you went into the formula and all that other stuff, so. Number of mills of expense would be 164, and again, that's based on the fact that you're spending $1 million. Your total state aid was $2.5 million, 10,000 a student, and again, you'll see a huge disparity between per pupil aid. This is how you went into the form. State aid as a percent of expense, they're covered about half. And actually, it's a little bit more than half, because if you take that out in that discussion, it'd be considerable. State aid adjustment, again, because you pay your money straight to special ed. Now ironically, back to the June activity you guys have to do. In theory, if you receive the money, and paid special ed, so your expenses went up $200,000. You would have less jockeying you'd have to do on paper because of 35% of the expenses, not 35% of the income or anything else, so if you want to gross up the expense and show more expense, you'd have less issues with the 35% carryover, which is, again, so. $2.3 million is what your expenses are. Page 7. Gross expenses, $4.8 million. If you take out that took it out of a good spot. So $4.8 million, again, $1 million is your bond payment. State aid plus 60, so technically you're getting $4 million in total. So what 60 of those brings in, and the state aid on formula, so $16,000 a student. If you go to page 9, that's where I did change it. You have if you take $1 million off, 84% is what you're covering with the formula. State aid plus 60 months. If you take that $1 million off, you're actually paying 105% of your budget. So that tells you, that's one of the discussions I brought up, kind of the bond payment thing, because ultimately, if you could, once that is gone, you are in a great spot. You can see Kinder's 102%, Central Cass has a building, they don't have a building fund, so they pay for building fund costs out of their general fund. They'd be at 102% if they didn't have a building fund expense. So there are very few schools, and you can see why you're able to get by with actually 60 mils and have kind of that deficit. It'd be tougher now with some of the additional costs, but most places cannot do this. That's why they're at 70 mils plus the 12. So you have 22 mils you're not using, other places are, and they're still struggling. But they have to go above the 60 because you can see very few are getting 100% of the cost being covered by that. Page 15, pupil to staff, and again, as you look at that number, cost per student, it ties directly into that. And this is the part where when the state is going to pay on a per student basis, this number becomes very relevant. Because if you have low pupil to staff, you're going to have a very hard time paying for stuff. It's going to be different. You're almost at 10, not too bad. You can see a lot of places are not as good as that. You see some of the 5. But you can see technically Central Cass is a 13, Kindred's a 12, Northern Cass is an 11. So if you go to page 19 and you look at a cost per student, your total expenses, again, are about $10,000 higher because you're paying for the bond. So your total expense in the general fund is $20,000. And you go, man, those guys just spend crazy. But that's a part about this whole thing. The state per pupil takes out certain costs to say this is what they consider the cost of education. Here, $12,000. You can see Central Cass and Kindred where they're at 13 on a per pupil to staff, 89. And every number you see in the pupil staff, and you go look at this page, it's a direct correlation. So if you ever reach the point, when we had those hard discussions, and I'm gonna go back to Zeeland, which is on the second gray block on the bottom. They're $28,000 a student. That's just the problem they have when they got new students. And this, if they start cracking down on that kind of stuff. But that 11.9 going in, that's why when you look at your mill levy, you look at the per pupil, everything you do right now is a true decision you make, and you have choice. And sometimes that's great, sometimes that's very frustrating. But by all rights is, you as a board are truly making specific financial decisions, because you could do things. A lot of schools are like, so I can just kinda incrementally, it makes you feel like, you can knock the mill off. Okay, I did so. You can do a lot of different stuff, but you have to make sure you all agree. And that's a part where, by having the budget you do, that's the spot you're in, is you do have a high financial scenario. And that puts you at higher risk than other places, because you can also have $100,000 swing. But boy, I tell you, you guys are still sitting there.
I like that one. You must be getting to the end.
Well, she keeps looking at the clock.
Well, you're over.
Well, then once I'm over.
19
How bad can it be? You had your chance.
That my iPad died.
You just have to, my
She
favorite
ran out of
saying,
tape.
high financial center of gravity. His tiny favorite for that.
What it comes down to, if you do too good here, they're gonna get you there. If you're doing bad enough over here, they'll help you there, but it's all.
What's our biggest thing to look at, the transition thing coming down the road?
I think the biggest thing that you're gonna have to decide is, what is a reasonable revenue stream? That when you see what the state's doing, do you believe the immediate reaction is to replace those dollars locally or not? And that's why I do that separate sheet, because how we wanna react to every situation in a financial. So, I mean, if you're going to have, if you believe you need to have a couple bad years, then you need to make sure that there's a way to get out of it. That's probably the biggest thing is, as long as, when you look at this next year, and if you're gonna do $250,000 a year, every year, technically that is 6 years. And you're, that's your fund balance.
Yeah, if you look at that, yeah.
That's what I'm saying, so I
Yep.
mean, that's the parts where it's, and if you're just going, that doesn't hurt, we told her it didn't good. That's all I heard, and everything else was like, noise, muffle something, blah, blah, blah. But that's the things where, that's a parts where ultimately, and you just make sure that all your costs are being covered and you're not playing any timing games. That's the biggest thing I just, and I think you've done an excellent job of keeping your non-sell things current. And that's the easiest thing to get off of. And that's a part, so to some degree, tie your salaries and benefits to those revenue streams to say, if we're gonna start not getting them, or try to get, pick some of those kind of things. But that's a part where I would not balance current budgets off the future, and I just make sure we're comfortable where we're at. And that you're gonna make sure that you always have, from the deficit side, an exit strategy. Because you truly will make a decision to do that. And that's the most important thing you got, is you can always, if you want to say, right the ship.
Questions for Mr.
Give you one question.
Give me some. I'll talk good. I'll say happy things.
I didn't understand, can you start from the
How about them Vikings?
Kirk Cousins should never die. What do you think?
Not a good financial move, right?
That was a financial move that somebody's gonna have to answer for, man.
Any questions? You've done such a great job, we don't have any.
Yeah, but keep up the good work. I literally mean that. As you guys, manage yourself well, I think you have good financial discipline. And it's interesting, is even like watching the whole discussion on that. That tells me a lot. because it's $4,000, right? And yet you're saying is we're taking a stand, on what's right, we're gonna be fiscally right. I listen, I watch stuff like that and that tells me more.
And you didn't get that on camera?
Too bad you ran out of tape.
You couldn't afford more. We're only budgeted for 45 minutes of tape.
That's why I waited, right till I said, okay, 8:30 for sure, you know.
Well, what would you done with a bill like that?
You know what, I'd have done either one or two things, either I would have split the difference between that and them. So, when they went down, so they were down to what, 11?
1,100.
And then 7,700. So you say, hey, you know what, you screwed up, I screwed up. Each of us takes a hit.
Meet in the middle.
That's kind of what we did.
No, actually, you paid the 11, not the 14, right?
Yeah.
Something in there.
But I'm saying, but see, and the other thing is I was looking at stuff and it's interesting because even like in these discussions, or as at the city of Oaks this year, and we're talking about doing budget stuff. I said, hey, $3, baby, I'm here. And how much you charge for that? I'll say nothing because I know down the road it pays off. And for me, that guy, for that $4 grand is gonna cost him a lot of money. That surprised me, that really did. He said, you know what? God, man, I'll tell you, I'll give you I'll give you a perfect example. I had a 2-year county audit I bid on, and I put in a 1-year price. And they said, you thought this for both years, right? She goes, yep. And I said, I ate it.
Yep.
And I gotta tell you what, that county is one of my best ones.
As an
I've had to
electrician.
do that before too, I can tell you.
Yes. Hey, I'm not bragging about it. Yeah, man, I screwed up. I'm really happy.
We've all been there.
Send out that bill and watch her pay, like, really? You don't feel bad at all? Nope, that's what you told me. And that's what I'm saying, that's $7,700. He's saying, that's what you told me. If, again, the fact is, there's a different deal in all those aspects, but yeah. But by all rights, is his aspect, he can stand behind that. And he can stand behind the original bill. Because he provided all those things, whether you want them or not.
Well, I won't call him again.
That's what I'm saying.
I know. Yep.
And then the problem also, the next thing is, somebody goes, what do you think about him? You go, hey, if you want to play guess the bill, final bill, that's the guy you want.
That's the truth.
That's what I'm saying. I looked at it, and for when Mike said he said, I don't want bad relations going, I got you.
It's done.
Okay, man, go like I said, I missed whatever thing you did that eliminated that issue from you. But, yeah, no, I tell you, that's where I looked at, but by all rights, from what you did is, from what he proposed is what you should have done. I say, man, you really want to stand?
Hey, I was ready to send a check for the original amount.
Yeah, I know.
You were.
It
You
was
did say
me.
that.
Put it on me.
He did ask a question.
He did.
All right, just
There you go.
There you go. You're welcome.
Thanks, Earl.
get your eyes off that clock. You cannot look at the
After
clock.
6 minutes you received. You're welcome.
Thanks, Earl.
Thank you.
We do need a motion to.
All this time I thought you were looking at me, you were looking at the clock behind me.
Right?
Actually, I was looking at Melissa.
I'll approve it.
I'll second.
Roll call.
I did.
Lori. Roll call.
Rob,
Yes.
Chad,
Yep.
Michelle,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Lori,
Yep.
Brent,
Yes.
Mike,
Yeah.
Brent.
Yes.
Was that begrudgingly you?
You said nice things, I'll approve.
Okay.
Now, next time I'm trying to get like more closer to 50-50.
More tuition
What?
agreements?
My shoulders hurt for patting me on it, but we did such a good job now.
We need every $10,000.
Tuition-free agreement.
Yeah, we have one from Jamestown, Gorland family. 8th grader.
8th grade. We need a motion
I'll
to
make a
approve.
motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Roll call.
Rob,
Yes.
Chad,
Yep.
Michelle,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Lori,
Yep.
Brent,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Brett.
Yes.
open enrollment?
Came from the same family, and then we also have another family in our district already that has kids in the district. They're just getting their open enrollment in so that their preschooler can continue in, and it was the Gorhams and the Almonds.
Okay. We can do them together, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Motion to.
I'll make a motion to
I'll second.
Roll call.
Rob,
Yes.
Chad,
Yep.
Michelle,
yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Brent,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Please,
Yes.
Brett.
Yes.
Parent involvement policy approval.
Just said we have no changes to it, we just have to approve it on a yearly basis for Title I, so.
No changes.
No changes, they just changed the dates, so
Okay.
we're good to go. So no changes, so if we need a motion to approve that.
We should still make a motion.
Yep,
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second it,
Michelle?
Michelle,
yes.
Roll call.
Rob,
Yes.
Chad,
Yep.
Michelle,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Lori,
Yep.
Brent,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Brett.
Yes.
And we got English language learner policy.
and this was adopted 11/15/16, I don't think we have to do anything with it, it's just that you guys need to be aware that we have it. It's called English Language Learners. That will provide appropriate educational services. What we do is we work with SEEK. So if we ever have somebody come in that we have to service, we have to provide services for, we just have to have somebody on staff that would be the person that would be with ELL, and so.
So it's in our policy.
It's in our policy, it's just that you guys need to be aware of it, that if anybody would say, you guys have an ELL, English Language Learner Policy, you guys could say, yes, we've seen it, it was adopted, and it's in our handbook, in our policy, yeah.
Business manager applications.
Okay, you got the three of
Three.
them, I guess all you need to do is decide how you wanna proceed forward now.
Yep.
Suppose we have to have interviews.
That would be, yes.
Once we drag them forth.
You wanna, I mean, I don't know, I'll let you guys set that up.
Okay.
You wanna-
How are we supposed to do that? Does the whole board have to do it, or just some
That's
of
up to
us,
you,
or-
that would be all you guys need to decide, how you wanna do it, when you wanna do it, who you want involved, and that stuff. So,
Because maybe the business manager is a direct employee of the board.
yeah.
Correct.
Okay,
We all said it.
yep.
I think we need to all be there, personally.
I think so too.
You don't mind me.
I'm not sure if I do tonight.
Because I really liked Amy, so.
You said it.
We're gonna have them all come in
She
at
did
one
past
time,
tense,
right?
though.
I said we do a
Like
dog
one
bowl
night.
tournament.
Really liked somebody else till you interviewed, and I'm like, whoa, really like that. We all were.
No, I don't
No,
think we all
no, there were four.
We
Karen's
did
was
all.
one of them.
I don't like
Karen
it.
Lewis and you and Laura.
What was that?
Dark, yep,
Because we didn't have all.
we can do that,
Karen,
yeah.
Not right away.
But
So
it's
that
not-
was
Do you wanna be a part of the interview process to help us?
I,
Yeah,
yes.
okay. I was going
Which
to
I
ask
think
you.
should be, yes.
Yeah, it would be nice if you would, because you would be able to.
Actually know what you're doing and we don't.
We need
We
you to
would
ask
be
us
sitting there
those
going,
questions.
We have done it differently. Do we want the whole group? Do we want?
I say all of us.
Yes.
Yeah, then we can't pretend anybody was playing.
Yeah, there's only three, so it's not like there's a whole list that has to be whittled down to,
Well,
We're not knocking the
if you
top
have-
10 down.
If
Right.
you have 5, then it's an
Yes.
open
Kind
meeting.
of, I'm eating chocolate.
Make sure.
If we interview the three and no one stands out as being
Then we move,
like her,
we can still,
Still open.
we can move on.
we can
Well-
reopen or whatever we want to do.
Okay.
We
Like-
moved to
like
avoid
Amy-
her retirement.
like Amy said, anything over 5 is an open meeting.
We'd have to advertise,
Yeah.
yes, just like we would for
Okay.
principal interviews and all that, which we did. We gotta advertise it open meeting.
Okay.
So yes,
Anybody over 5 board member,
correct,
right?
Right,
correct.
So we might have just did 4 last time.
you did.
I know we
So
didn't
it
have
was
the whole
Mike,
board.
Brett, myself, and who else?
Karen Luke.
Karen,
Yep.
executive session for that?
No.
Be fun.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't.
Is funner a word?
No.
So what are you asking now, Mike? What,
Do we want the whole group? If that's the case, then we'll have Amy call and get some
Why don't-
times and schedule.
well,
or-
then if it's an open meeting, I don't think we want it that way, do we?
Cause then anybody can get, open meetings, open meeting.
Yeah.
I think we better not then.
Looks like you're getting your funner. What's that?
Well, we might come on the next one.
Well,
My first interview. Do they?
What's that?
Because we usually include the teachers in that process and, you know.
Oh, no, not here.
Oh. Oh, okay.
Okay.
What did,
It was open to the public and, right?
yeah.
Oh, your teacher interview?
No, I interviewed in February in Richland.
Oh.
It's open, yeah, it was open and everything.
how was that?
How was it? I walked out of there saying, I'm sorry, I want to work there.
Exactly.
No,
I can't work there.
What did I?
I'm sorry, I lost track.
It's really funny, I recognize your voice as mine. That would be interesting. It's a new phone, I don't know how to use it. Leave me alone.
That is my exact response.
So
It
what's
was
the board's thought? What do
intimidating.
we wanna do there?
I wasn't intimidated, they just were very clear they didn't want any change. And I was like, well, I'm not Cindy, that's change. And I don't wanna work for a board that doesn't want any change.
Cool.
I don't know, I like the fact that we're all here, but again, I understand the reason behind it, having four also. So, I think we should go,
Or it's gonna
I think
be
we should
some
go,
of you four, I
Yeah.
think, cause Lee and I
Oh, you're
shouldn't be
related.
involved.
Okay.
no, you're too confrontational.
Amongst other issues.
No, other issues.
Yeah.
Is anyone else related to the candidates?
Oh, you guys are related?
Yeah. Which I get, that puts them in an awkward position, and it's just better if they're comfortable not doing it to
I just
them.
repeated, I'm working on learning people and names, so.
I mean, if it
They're
was a
all
whole
related.
board, I don't mind sitting in on those things, but if it's only gonna be a certain four, then
Did we get information on each of these people?
Yeah,
Yep,
he
email.
emailed them,
Discuss that.
Oh,
like last week,
eh, okay.
so it's,
People we know, I'm assuming.
Circumstances, you almost have to pick a committee. I mean, cause they can't really put any input if they're in there or anything, they should, right?
Okay.
and there's
I think
another,
we're
another
looking
one,
more
I
towards the
don't know
committee.
her name.
So which would be our, I think we're looking at that side of it.
yeah, you guys work
You
that
wanna
out.
look at them, Rob?
Well, I must have them, don't I?
You would have them on your.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the one that's applied is actually works at our main office, so I.
But yeah,
recommend
he sent you the whole,
Okay, I'll look when I get home then.
it's one of his
looking at
board
this side of
letters.
the room.
Oh, what
Okay.
the truck. Seriously.
Right, guys?
Going to the convention,
From this side of the
going to
room?
the rural summit.
What happened?
Uh-huh.
So,
It involves you
Mike works,
people.
Mike works with one of them, the others
One
are
works at
related
their
to those
general
two
office,
guys.
and these guys have got some ties. So
They're-
I'm
Isn't
looking
the
at that
whole
side.
state of
Oh,
North
hey,
Dakota related?
If we wanna go ties, I served with my rack, I've known him for the last 15 years, so.
So he's out. Nice.
There's
What
four of
have
us.
I
Now,
done?
now we can't even get any.
When is the
Jay.
interview?
Now you guys are down to 5.
You guys have to decide.
That's true, though.
Draw straws.
Well, Lori and I'll sit in.
Yeah, I mean, I don't,
I'll do
Well,
it. Who's the
For
we?
sure, for sure, he and I will, whoever
Okay,
else wants
Brett.
to join us.
Lori, Cindy.
The rest of us, let's rock, paper, scissors.
You do one
Been
more.
wanting to do this
Mr.
tonight.
Rob and
Parsons,
Michelle.
Mr.
Rob and
Parsons.
Michelle, I guess you guys rock, paper, scissors.
You like doing that stuff. But I will sure do it.
Don't you have to harvest something or spray something?
Yeah, but
I
when,
think I have a
well,
combine to drive.
I don't know if I can come up with excuses for everything.
Hey, you got my list. You do that. You gotta trim a tree, or do you have to?
So who is it?
We got-
Brant,
Doing
Us
it?
three,
Three
and
on the end
whoever
here.
else.
Brent,
Cindy.
Lori,
And
Cindy,
Rob.
Cindy,
Cindy, and me.
There you go.
Okay, I'll sure do it, if I
I
can
still
be
want
there.
to rock, paper,
Well,
scissors.
we gotta set the dates.
let's set, we set the date now, you guys,
Yeah,
and then
Get your
ask them
schedules
to
out
come to
and-
us.
Make
Because
it
it-
happen, Captain.
if you're gonna be at one, you should be at all of them,
Yeah.
because you really don't
Yeah.
wanna see one and then not see the other two
Yeah.
and
Well,
then try
can
to
we do
get
them all in
involved.
one day?
I would like to do that,
Yes.
yes,
Yes,
one
that'd
evening
be
would
good.
be perfect.
And we
You
should
want
be
me to
able
be
to
your
do it in
backup
one
in
evening.
case you can't do
Yes.
the one day? Okay.
And we can't do it on 7th and 8th grade football game nights.
When's that?
Like
Well, next week I
Monday,
only have Monday and Wednesday free.
And that
Wednesdays
doesn't
are
work
fine.
for me.
It doesn't for me
Well,
either.
and hey, Monday,
Monday is a
hey,
school improvement thing,
yeah, that's
mister.
strategic planning. We can't do it that way.
who's all gotta be
You'll
at that?
here.
All of us.
All of us.
It
And then
is?
Wednesday,
Yeah.
we're in Bismarck for that small, for that
What
time is
small
it
story.
starting? And I know we
Six.
went.
What's that?
Who's all of us?
I keep having 6:30 in my head.
Oh, Monday I go to Kindred for football.
Doesn't look like you are.
This
Yeah,
next
well,
Monday?
I don't
Send
have,
Donna.
I don't have to be at that
We
meeting.
need better
Yeah,
calendars.
October 30th.
Darla,
What?
Wait on
He's
that.
busy.
Oh, sorry.
I'm
September
going
30th.
to.
Yeah.
Darla will go.
I'm going.
She'll take enough pictures that you can see what happened.
Are you okay? Okay, so
Why
what
not?
about the October first?
Husband, actually, I called him a
Monday the 23rd is in Kindred.
Till 7.
Thursday is in Carrington.
I'm good at whipping cream.
I'm glad you're on that list.
We might, it's Tuesday, October first.
I pose the greatest challenge.
I can do,
Yep.
I can do that.
I won't be at that meeting Monday night.
Tuesday,
October
October
first.
1st.
October first,
October 1st,
yeah,
game in Valley City.
okay, what about?
I
we
can do the October 1st if you want me to do it instead
Cause
of.
there's 3 of us that can, so.
Okay, so Rob, do you wanna give it up to Michelle, or do you really wanna be a part of
Well,
the
no,
process?
see, she really wants it. Yeah,
I
you,
just want to get it done.
okay, yeah, go
Like,
for it.
I feel like we need to like
Yeah.
interview them. They got their stuff in. Let's
Right.
interview and move
Then
on.
if you guys don't like them,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We need
'Cause then
we
you
need to get
See
going.
if we need to.
It's October
Because then we're
1st, what
running
time?
short on time.
So,
When do you wanna, make sure you know when you wanna hire the person? When do you want them to start? Cause
Yeah.
Amy's done December 31st.
We want them as soon as we can get them, right?
We
So
wanna
she-
get some
so
Amy
they can
training
train?
time.
Yeah.
we would want them, they could give their 2-week notice as of October first if we hire them, and that they could start on the 15th of October. And that gives you all, no, that's too much time.
Don't you think? What do you think?
What is
How
your-
long is
I
someone
was
gonna
thinking
need?
November 1st.
November
Okay.
Because I
1st.
figured the school board meeting is October 15th.
Yep. So then
Okay.
we would
Approve
approve.
it there, they
Yeah.
give 2 weeks' notice.
That's our goal now.
November
What is your-
first.
See? What are we
That's why
gonna
you
do
gotta be
without
there.
you?
You'll be fine.
Cause that does,
Hey,
but I see, if you
Yeah.
like what we get there.
Okay.
Otherwise, we gotta reopen up.
Okay.
Okay, so what time would we start our first interview? What'd you
I
say?
have a PTO planning meeting at 3:30. So it has to
6:15.
I'd like
Is-
your agenda.
Do these people
Yeah.
in particular have jobs that they have to leave in order to come to this meeting, or to an interview?
One.
One would.
Well,
Well,
One drives bus.
one,
2 would.
one drives bus, one works in Valley City,
And one
and
works
the other
in
one works in
Jamestown.
Jamestown. He doesn't get home till about 5:36.
So we started at 6:30,
So
7:30.
the
Take
bus-
advice from the guy that's not on the committee.
Yeah.
Right?
I would think you'd start with the one that's driving bus could be the earliest.
Yes,
Cause
let's,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I usually beat her back into town by 5:30. She's usually not back when I get back, so.
So if we did a
6.
6 o'clock,
Let's start at 6.
6.
No, I meet her when I come into town.
Okay.
She's going north, I'm going south.
6,
Trying to put it all together.
should we do 6, 7, and 8, and
Shoot for
assume
that.
that we're only gonna we'll actually shorten our time up a little bit? We'll do an hour-long interview, we'll shorten it up a bit. could I ask that we get together to form questions and actually figure out salary and do some stuff as a committee a little bit before 6 o'clock at least? Yeah, cause we need to tell the people what we're offering.
That was the part I was gonna bring up,
Oh,
there.
okay.
Where are we gonna be for range or what we're looking at?
Yeah.
We need a whole, this group to decide on that.
What's
Okay.
minimum wage nowadays?
Oh, for crying out loud.
I don't think we wanna skimp on.
That's what you're saying.
Well, they can earn up.
I believe you set the policy that there was not gonna be anything lower than
Are you
$15
okay
an
with
hour.
No, that wasn't me.
I really don't want to miss that football game.
Oh,
It's
Jim?
not all voluntary?
We'll get her in.
Yes, what?
You mean you're not a
I'd like
volunteer?
to know, can you
You gotta set the base somewhere, the top end's wide open.
Where are we at right now on business manager salary?
23.
23 an hour is where we are right now?
That's what I'm at now. Started at 22.
Start at 22. Do we have some
And
range?
she
on
had
thing?
good experience.
Yes, she did.
She had experience. Is that what you said?
I don't really think we'd go below 20, do you?
No,
You're
I
not
think
gonna
that
get
was
in
lowest.
much. You're not gonna get in
No,
much.
you can't really, not to get in qualified.
And you'll have a list of the benefits that you have, so we can hand that to somebody, so.
And you'll help
Would
us
we
with
start at that
questions.
first? What, so what ways would you
We
say
had
we
the
start at?
questions.
Yeah, there
We
were
have somebody
questions.
who has a lot of experience in one of those with wages
Do you
and
bring
salary.
treats to meetings?
Does that give you a bigger?
That's all I need to know.
And
I
was
can
that
stop
based on
shopping.
how many
Don't you
hours
want
a
more
year?
experience?
That was,
2080?
that was my main focus in my interview.
You did well.
I'll bring food.
I'm saying.
So you guys.
You notice that
Can you
her treats
help
never
me?
got around to the table, because they stopped right there right in the corner again.
Right?
And I
Notice?
didn't have a
So can he
single
be a
one.
little bit-
Lie. Is that all?
There's
him?
like
Yes.
10 open wrappers there.
Can you make
5:30, I think.
5:30?
Go ahead.
And if we make
You
it-
didn't even have
Oh,
one?
he grabbed one and he tried to
Okay,
force
so
it.
we're gonna meet at 5:30
seen
as a
anything
committee
on
before these interviews.
I think I still have the questions
Killing
we
me,
had with
Smalls.
Amy.
Well, I
Thank you,
tried
can you
too.
share those with the four of us?
If I can soon.
Do you want me there?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, sorry.
Oh my God,
I'm
yes.
sorry.
The way you were talking,
How is your
If
schedule?
Mike's not coming, I'm not coming.
I was just wondering, because Lori's talking about, can you give the committee the questions? So
No, I'm
thinking, okay.
sorry, no.
We always assumed you were coming.
Okay,
Oh, that's so
my
bad.
gosh.
So sorry.
Yeah, that feels bad, yeah,
who's making the calls for setting up the interviews?
you guys are.
Amy should make the calls this afternoon.
No,
Okay.
they're.
Honey,
So you
no, I
want
didn't.
Mary at
My
6?
favorite.
Love them.
Go
Yep.
ahead.
Mary at 6?
Yeah.
Yep.
Who at 7? Lee? Lee?
What's-
Who do you want at
Lynn-
7?
What's
Lindsay
what's
or-
his name?
I'm not gonna be there.
Oh, that's right.
Lindsay
you're
or
not gonna-
Steve?
Oh,
Steve.
Steve, there you go.
Steve.
Okay,
And then Lindsay.
okay.
Okay.
Mary, Steve, and Linda.
Thank you.
Can that bag move
Since
or
they won't
not?
move the
Well,
bag
it's
any further.
trying
No,
to,
we're
but
just
it's not
looking.
getting very far.
There's a bunch of them in there somewhere.
And I think I still have the interview questions from, I'll just go over and make sure we've got them, so.
Oh, that's so
I'll
sad.
interview in the conference room.
Yes.
Okay.
October 1st.
October
What,
1st.
Tuesday, October 1st.
Better look again.
Yes, look before.
We have
There's no
There's no
volleyball,
volleyball games that night.
Okay, I'm good.
We're trying to figure
There's no-
stuff
don't
out
know
here.
if
I
it's- well,
can't
it
hear
doesn't-
that.
Rob's not on it, so they don't have anybody old enough yet, so.
Okay.
I'm good.
Anybody
What
got
is
anything
in
else?
this?
Yes.
Yes?
That's sweep account.
Oh, yeah. Okay,
Here, focus on the banking
focus
issue.
on the banking issue.
Should ask Harold this.
We met at Budget and Finance looking to switch the way we, instead of pledge of assets, there's a sweep type account we can go to, and we could get a little bit better interest.
Yes.
The question is, do we wanna move forward with that? Do we wanna have them come out and visit with us next month, they could? Or have the finance group look at it again?
The
or-
question would be, do you want to meet as, do you want them to come and explain it to the whole group, or do you just want the budget and finance committee to meet with those people, bring back a recommendation, and you will accept it and not
The ladder,
beat it around for
Yeah.
Have you
the
looked
ladder,
The ladder.
the ladder.
We
Amy,
had,
have you looked into it?
yes, we had a meeting.
Yeah, we met on it.
'Cause I mean,
So
I
what'd you
looked
think
at
about
what
it?
they proposed.
Yeah.
We're gonna
It's,
cover our
it's
costs.
new, so I'm not sure, I mean, it,
Okay, so you would like get more information.
the nice
We
thing
had
about
some
it,
questions that we asked, and they provided us with some answers to
I
the
don't-
questions.
Amy's got, the Mike, what were your 2 questions that you had?
We wanna know if we could get out of it. If we got in, we can.
Yep.
We want a little better interest rate than we had now.
Which they gave us.
Which they gave us.
Yep.
What was the third thing? There was,
The interest rates in both accounts would mirror,
would mirror.
This is
same
what
thing
We
in
have
both
all this
accounts.
money tucked in the bank and-
Basically, what it amounts to is you're insured up to $250,000. Otherwise, we've got over that, so we'd have to do pledge of assets with Bank of North Dakota. This spreads it out to other banks and keeps us under that 250, correct?
Right.
So-
And it floats, if one goes over, it just transfers to another bank.
So everything will be federally insured through
Without
FDIC.
$250,000 in
We
each
don't need to do the pledge of assets through the Bank of North Dakota.
Oh.
Which is less paperwork for.
Yeah, it would
Doesn't
make
that
sense.
seem
It's
like
less
no-brainer?
paperwork for the
And that's
bank and it's
Once
less
we had
paperwork
some of
for
them
us.
questions that we had answered,
Yeah.
I don't think we have to meet again. I
No.
think we're okay with
I
it.
think that's a
perfectly
no-brainer,
I'm
really.
looking at too, you
Sounds
know,
like
we
it.
asked for greater interest rate, they figured we'd pick up almost $6,000 a
$6,000.
year
Yeah.
in
Oh.
interest, so
No, it was,
I guess.
After the questions are answered, I don't think, I think the
It's a good deal.
finance group would say that's the way to go.
especially the ability to get out. If we find out we don't like it, we can just
We
revert
can
back
get
to what
out
we
right
had.
away. Yeah,
Oh.
get out of it.
Okay.
I guess
I'm
at this
good.
point, unless you guys have questions, I'd make a motion
I
to
think we're
approve it.
okay. The
Oh,
finance group
second.
answering them questions, I think
Okay.
Yeah,
we're
we're
okay
good.
with it.
Yep.
So I think
But
if
if
we,
we, just keep in mind too, if we would go back, if you get out of the sweep account and go back, the interest rates would go back
Yep.
down.
Right.
yes, we would go back to what we would have right now. We're gaining what, the
A
the building fund would stay the same interest
No.
rate.
No, it got more.
Did it get
No.
more?
The building fund went up 0.45%.
0.45, yeah,
And general fund went up a quarter of a
quarter
percent.
percent.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Almost a quarter and a half.
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, it was
Then
good.
if we put a little more in the building fund, that'll get better.
So he made the motion, I'll second it, actually.
who made the motion?
I
Mr.
did.
Mayor.
So our recommendation would be to go with it.
Okay.
We'd have the motion and the second.
Yeah.
I'm taking the bag.
Chad?
Yes.
Why do you look at me? He was like, yes. She's really trying to throw us off today, isn't she?
You guys gotta sit separate. Michelle?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Lori?
Yep.
Brent?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Lee?
Yes.
Brett?
Yes.
Any other correspondence or discussion? See none, adjourned. The next meeting, look at the.
Tuesday.
It's Tuesday.
Tuesday, October 15th.
Amy, we will need